Hi, I'm Reggie Turner. I'm here with Jim Miller and Terrence Moore. The Flip Side starts right now. Welcome to the show. Gentlemen, this is our final show before the votes will be in.
That is correct.
Thank goodness.
It has been a wild political season, especially within our community. Being this close to it, it's been a little crazy. The horse trading, the fake relationships, but the other side, the campaigning and people working hard to earn the voters' vote has all been there, but it's been a soap opera. So I am glad that it's going to come to the end.
You know, earn the voters' vote. I got to say something about this, and Terrence and I talked about this before you got on set. I will be happy that my mailbox is no longer going to be full, at least for the next 12, 15 months, of all of the campaign materials that waste our natural resources and end up in, at least in my case, end up in the county landfill.
And all the Tron ads that you see on every social media
and
platform that you have.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, you know, the thing about it is everyone disappears. Like they just go away, right?
Yes.
And that's the
And
sad
then they
part
don't do
about
anything for the next.
Right? No, right. Like you make such an effort over the last 6 months to a year to be in front of everybody, coming out, visits and tours and showing up, and then election happens, and then it's like poof.
Yeah.
Like, where is that engagement continuously between election day?
They want the job, they don't want the work. In some cases. In some cases,
yes.
And, you know, during the campaign, especially when you look at state level politics from our community, you know, there's a lot of stuff said in the midst of the campaign, but the world in Annapolis is very much different than what you're campaigning and saying you're going to do. You're going to solve crime. You're going to solve poverty.
Right. The world in Washington, D.C. is different. The world in Washington County commissioners is different.
Absolutely.
The world in the school board is different.
So there's
no
a
one's
campaign.
saying solve. Right, that's a commitment. No one wants to commit to anything. They're addressing the issue.
Or they're fighting.
They're fighting
I'm
for.
fighting for.
They're crime fighters.
Right. Yes.
Crime
right.
fighters.
Yes.
We're crime fighters.
Or criminals. No, I didn't. That was a joke.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. But let's kind of go from the top. I don't think there's been much movement on most of these races. Jim, let's start with the governor's race. In regards to Moore and Cox. I'll let you go first.
Yeah. The Republican candidate is far too right for Maryland, and it's going to be the Democrat.
Does he lose by more than 20 points?
No. I have him 10 points, 45-55.
So that race will be called the night of?
I believe so, yes.
Mr. Moore.
I'm calling it now, right? You know, like I'm calling my shot. I'm taking the Babe Ruth approach right now. You know, it's, you know, I agree. I'm more the 45-55 in favor of Moore in the race as well. But I think it's doing a disservice right now for Democrats. I think because he's so far ahead that Democratic voters aren't going to come out they need to for some of the other races.
Which will hurt them down badly.
Yes, exactly.
I am so glad you said that, because if anything comes out of comes across to our viewers tonight as a result of the show, it should be this. None of the polls matter if you don't show up.
Right.
If you support a candidate, do them the favor of going to the polls and voting. Even if you only support one candidate and only vote for that one candidate or that one race, go vote.
And there's no excuse anymore, right? You can mail in votes. You got early voting. And of course, we have election day as well. And I think that's what the big spread right now. People may feel they don't have to vote. You know, and there's some of the smaller races. They actually should, right?
Right. And down ballot is exactly why.
Because that's where you feel the most impact. And especially going to this economic climate that we're in right now, you want the right person making decisions in your local races. And I really hope that people go out and vote and don't feel like it's already a win and they don't have to, because nothing's more discouraging than waking up the next day to realize that the candidate that you thought was going to win didn't win because you didn't contribute your vote.
Well, and let's say this, for the Democrats that are watching our TV show, the only reason in my mind that I only gave it a 10-point margin is because we don't know how bad it's going to be for the Democrats because of the national issues that they're facing. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And as much as they want to downplay it, but guess what? Those national issues could go away, or they could be amplified if the Democratic voters in Maryland don't show up at the poll. That's why I'm still giving him a 45% chance.
And I say that with the Republicans as well, right? Please don't let the rhetoric of 2020 carry over that your vote don't count, that your vote's not being counted, or there's some kind
And don't
of conspiracy.
assume there's going to be a Republican tsunami, that all the Republicans are just going to automatically get elected. Don't assume anything. And I know I'm just arguing for both sides to go, but that's exactly
what should happen.
That's what should
That's
happen.
democracy.
Right, exactly.
Well, the thing that I don't want to see is, when we started our last election cycle, when we started from a national standpoint of saying that there was voter fraud or irregularities and those type of things, I remember Kim Klacik lost by like 50 points or more. And then she said there was voter irregularities in her race. Like, I just don't want to see that type of foolishness.
Well, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And if it is a Republican tsunami, you're going to see it on the Democratic side, because guess what? They're great at blaming the other guy, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, they just are.
I don't think you're going to see it if the Democrats lose. I
Oh,
mean,
I
they
think you
see
are.
they know that they got some
There
tough
are
sledding ahead, and
already
it's a midterm.
questions.
It's a midterm election.
There are already
not
questions.
in the state of Maryland.
Not in the state of Maryland, no.
Okay, I'm looking at it from the state of
Okay,
Maryland.
I'm looking at it more
that
nationally.
standpoint.
There are already Pennsylvania, for example.
Right. But a lot of these states, though, I mean, they made their moves in the legislature to kind of change things to suppress the vote, right? In some instances. So
But
we'll
that's
see.
why I think the Democrats may push back, right? Because of some of that legislation that went into play that we've seen over the last 2 years, and how that may impact the Democratic votes in some of those states and regions. Yeah. So I think both sides aren't going to go away quietly, and I think there's going to be a sore losing party no matter what.
There always is.
There's always a sore losing party. So let me give you my number on this. I see it 57-43 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I see that race. We got Brooke Lierman against Barry Glassman. I mean, Barry Glassman, he traditional Republican. I just haven't seen much of him. Yeah. I mean, obviously he hasn't been in this community that I'm aware of.
What time do the polls open next week? Do they open at 7?
7 in the morning?
Yeah.
Let's verify.
Is that right?
Why, you going to say it's going to be called at 7:01? Where are you going with that?
I think it's going to be called at 7 o'clock and 30 seconds.
As soon as the polls close.
It's polling as soon as they open. There is zero, and I mean zero, shot that Glassman's going to pull this one out.
I would agree, but he's still going to get the traditional Republican vote.
He's gonna get the vote for the R people, which, whoever that is, he's gonna get them.
All right, so where are our numbers on this then? Let's keep it moving.
100 Learman, 0 Glassman.
I'm a firm believer that a lot of people just go down the party lines on their ballots. So I always got to say that it's going to be probably 95-5.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm saying chance of winning. I'm not saying
right. Yeah, that's what I said. It's a 5% chance of winning.
Yeah, we go back and forth in regards to what our numbers mean. So I'm sure we're confusing
right.
our audience as well. But yeah, in regards to percentage or chance to win, I'm 100 in on Learman. Attorney General race, we have, is it Michael Perotka?
Perotka and Brown.
Oh, we got stink books. Against Anthony Brown. That was
always
scary to me.
entertaining. Always entertaining.
Listen, we got to do something with the
In the
budget.
Attorney, what I heard him say was, in the Attorney General race, we have stink bugs.
They need to fix that problem. That's my issue.
We have Brown and Perotka.
They need to prosecute.
Yeah. Brown had a failed attempt in a gubernatorial race. 8 years ago. And I think, again, there's 0% chance for the Republican in this race. I'm 100 in on Brown.
95-5 again for me right here, in favor of Brown.
Yeah, I go 80-20 on that one.
Wow.
Yes, we go 80-20. Keep no explanation needed, gentlemen. Let's just put it down as 80-20.
You know, that saddens me, because if you would have said 100 like me, I was going to suggest that Terrence always hedges his bet. He's the guy that when he makes a political donation, he donates to both parties just in case.
He's from New York. He's been trained by Trump. So
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
sorry, T. But anywho, let's move on to the Senate race. We have Chris Van Hollen, and his challenger is Chris Chafee.
60-40
60-40.
in favor of Van Hollen.
Right.
I'm 80-20 Van Hollen.
Yeah, I go 75-25. I can't be on the same numbers you guys.
So how much is the race in Pennsylvania where the candidate had a stroke?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that bleed over to Van Hollen? How much?
None.
You don't think?
You just reminded people it happened just now.
Okay.
And most people,
Right.
most people is been.
I mean,
avoid-
have they had any forms of
Yep.
debates? I haven't seen
No,
either
not
candidate.
that I've
No.
seen.
You know, other than him having the situation that he had, there was nothing that came out of that.
Right.
So I think that's a non-factor.
All right,
District 6 House
we
of
go.
Representatives.
here we go.
We got David Trone
coming on strong. He's back in town this weekend, right?
We got Trone versus Parrott. We talked about this race every week.
Oh, here comes the calculator.
Oh no.
The people asked for it, so it's here. Jim, it's on you though first. Before you do it, let me tee this up. So, a month ago we had the president here, right?
Yep.
President came in,
Which, by the way, I don't think helped
Right.
Turn's chances.
right? He gave kudos to Congressman Trone.
I got
right?
2 words for you.
Yeah.
Made in America.
Okay. All right. So this weekend on Saturday, we have Speaker Adrian Jones.
Right, from
That's going to
state.
be in town, and there's going to be some canvassing and a rally and,
And
those
what does
type of
that
things.
say to you?
You tell me what it says to you.
Well, we had this conversation
did.
well before the show, so I'm going to parrot what you're going to say. I think that he is looking for. I don't think he got the bump that he was expecting bringing the president to town, and I think he thinks that this will be a better situation. That is not what you think. I
He's
know.
pandering to the black vote. That's what we're saying
Okay,
right now.
yes,
right?
yeah.
Like he's pandering to the black vote and the Democrats. And we had this conversation, and this is what my struggle is. And I said this a few months ago as well. The Democratic Party had an opportunity to really push get out and vote. Voter registration, we haven't seen big voter registration drives.
Nope.
We haven't seen big pushes in campaigns for people to just get out and vote. It's all been about name recognition.
Popularity politics.
Right. Who you know, who can you bring into town, who can you stand behind. We know the midterm elections always have lower voter turnout, especially in the Democratic Party, and
Yes.
especially in the Democratic Party amongst minorities, right? So I think this is reactive to the work that you should have been doing a year ago.
But I also think it points to a larger problem that he sees some very, very tight numbers.
Right.
And he thinks there's a choice. Given the set of circumstances, Democrats are not popular right now. Redistricting is definitely in favor of the Republicans.
Yes.
And Parrott has, while it's been a less vocal race, it's been a smart race.
Right. You know, the thing is, there's a few things there, right? Why Hagerstown? I mean, I guess the little carve out that you have of Montgomery County, he thinks he's good there. Frederick, sounds like he doesn't feel like that there's any more room for him because a lot of the energy is in the rural part of the county that's going to go for Parrott. So you come to Hagerstown,
Right.
where we struggle with turnout. So you're going to come a few days before the election that you think you're going to move the needle in regards to turnout. The other thing that's very
I'll tell you
interesting
why
is-
Hagerstown. I know why Hagerstown. he has watched the flip side and heard me rail on Parrott over the last several months.
So he think he can flip you, is what you're saying.
That's it.
Yeah, that's reasonable. But the other thing in regards to this is, I think he has a problem with African American voters. He came to this community when he won the first time. He went to one of the historic black churches in the Jonathan Street community. He wrote a check and he left, and has delivered zero. He was looking for his photo opportunities with black organizations, or a month or so ago in the campaign. But this to me speaks that you're in trouble. Like, this is Hagerstown, Maryland, a net taker in the state. In a month's time, you had the president here and the Speaker of the House. And the interesting thing about the Speaker of the House is, in 2 years, and we've talked about this, he needs to win this race if he wants to run for Senator Cardin's seat in 2 years. But the interesting thing is you're bringing in Speaker Jones, who could be your challenger.
Absolutely.
In 2 years. So like that's some interesting dynamics of leaning on her to kind of help you across the finish line. So is there some horse trading there?
First of all, Speaker Jones is amazing at her work.
Yes.
And, she happens to be an African-American woman who is completely qualified for what she does in her leadership role. So let me just put that out there first and foremost. Also to touch upon the point about Trone's interaction with the African-American community. It's not like Parrott's winning the African-American community
he's not.
either, right? So I just
But
don't,
many of them will stay home.
Right, and right. So I just don't want to kind of one-sided. I think there is just an issue, period, and I say this across the board, with the perception of white male leadership. And just across the board, across the nation, you're seeing this right now. You're seeing politicians become more diversified. You're also seeking out minorities to lead and run in certain races, especially right now in the state of Maryland, when we're going to have possibly a black man serve as governor over the entire state.
Right.
So as much as race makes people uncomfortable, it's part of every decision made in everything we do all day, every day. So hopefully the audience is not getting uncomfortable with this conversation, because the truth is the truth. Let's call it what it is. That's why we sit here every week,
Well,
right?
I hope some of our viewers are getting uncomfortable, because these are conversations that we need to have. It needs to be out front.
I agree.
And it needs to be something that we're going to grapple with. The demographics of our community are going to change drastically over the next 3 to 5 years.
They are, 100%.
So get familiar.
Absolutely. And let's not discount the Hispanic population, which is underrepresented, undercounted, and underserved across the state as well, and have been dealing with some large racial issues as well as being identified as illegal aliens, and how they've been treated in this region specifically, in Western Maryland.
Have you seen any politician championing their issues?
Or speaking to the issue, period.
Right.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There is a large population that's not really represented,
Right.
and I go back to what I said before. The census being done during pandemic,
It's a disservice.
it's going to be a huge surprise in 10 years when that census gets done again. Those numbers are going to change drastically right now, and our politicians really need to get ahead of this and really start building lasting relationships, and not showing up in these communities prior to election days, and really build this representation, because there are leadership, and there's also a transfer of wealth in some cases as well amongst minorities in across the state, across the country. Even though the wealth gap is completely, expanding, but who is in the concentrated area of wealth is starting to be diversified a little bit more as well, which means the influence is there, as well as the voting opportunity is there as well. Let's look at the power of the Black Caucus right here in the state of Maryland that people negate. So just something for people to consider. It's a lot of things going on, and I wouldn't wake up the next day and be surprised either way. So I have Trone 75, Parrott 25.
Jim?
51-49.
Ooh,
Parrott.
You still,
Really?
yeah, he was with Parrott last week. He's still
he's
there.
still there.
He's still there. Listen, before I give my numbers, let me say this. In the autopsy of this election, because again, Trone wants to run for the congressional seat in 2 years,
Senatorial.
the senatorial seat in 2 years. One of the things that he's going to realize is that his staffing was not up to par and he had bad intelligence, especially in this community. He worked out of a silo in regards to who on a municipal level that he received information from, and he is going to find out that it did not serve him well, especially if you're going to try to run in 2 years off of your record, which you've done in this community, not just broadly, but when you have to go to Prince George's County and all these other constituencies and show what you've been able to produce and your relationships with the African American community, the Hispanic community, you're going to be woefully short in regards to what you've been able to deliver. So, with that being said,
Why you calculate? I think it was money poorly spent. I think
Oh,
there was
for
an
sure.
opportunity to take those same dollars that went into the ads, the commercials, you know, the mailings and all, to really drive out voters. Like, where was the rally to get voters out to register, to have people knocking the doors and making sure people are registered? And I know there were people out knocking, but there should have been a greater swell across the country, period. But speaking specifically to this race, to get people registered. And your numbers are, oh goodness.
gentlemen, with the fact that Speaker Jones is coming here in the final days before the election, it smells like trouble to me.
All right.
I'm going toss up.
50-50?
Yeah, I'm
You
going
needed a
toss up.
calculator for that?
I had to carry the one, Jim.
100 divided by 2 equals 10 divided
Now
by
you got to
5.
get off the fence, Turner. We can't let you get away with 50-50.
Wow.
No, I'm just saying.
Wow.
Come on.
Give me some time to process. In the break, I'm going to sit in the corner and meditate a little bit. I want to find my chi. And then by the end of the show, I will come back to you with a hard number that I'm willing to stand behind for the next 5 minutes.
Oh gosh. Well, when you're looking for your chi, look for your mind too. You've lost it. You've lost it.
Wow, Jim, do you want to hit some of these local races?
I can't help you with your chi, but I think there are Cheetos in the machine. Well, let's talk about. Don't we want to do McKay Dreisbach?
Let's do McKay drives back. No, let's not do McKay drives back. You know a race that we have not adequately covered?
Go ahead.
We have not covered the sheriff's race. That is one race that we have been totally off on and have not given it the attention that it deserves.
All right.
So we have Brian Albert running as a Republican against Junior McLeod.
Right.
I have seen little to nothing of Mr. McLeod at all. Like, I've seen him in a few Democratic events, but other than that, I haven't seen really anything. What about you, gentlemen?
No, I haven't seen him either.
Nor have I. And I think the primary numbers kind of point to Brian Albert taking it.
Landslide.
Landslide, yes. So if I had to throw a number out there, I'm going 95-5 on that one as well.
He loves that 95-5.
That's right.
Although I'm
It's
not
always
far
a slim
behind. I'm
chance.
90-10.
90-10?
Yeah.
I'm going 98-2.
Okay.
98-2. Okay, he got off the fence for that
There
one.
you go. Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
bold with my predictions, gentlemen.
All right.
All right, so now let's go back to our other Senate race, where we have Mike McKay.
Okay, we should actually take a break first.
You want to hold off on that?
Let's take a break.
You got to start looking
right.
for your chi.
Oh yeah. Can we get the camera in to put a blanket or a towel or something in the corner for me?
We can do that.
I'll do my downward dog first, and then
No, go to commercial, Turner.
All right, very good. Stay with us for more yoga and election coverage after the break. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, everybody. We're jumping right back into election coverage. Thank you, gentlemen, for being patient with me as I was working on my chi. Let's jump right in. Jim, please stop looking at me like that. Let's
Put
go.
what in his coffee?
I have no idea.
All right, go ahead. Who are we talking about?
Let's talk about Mike McKay as the Republican and against Mike Dreisbach for the Senate seat that covers more of the western part of our county and Allegheny County.
Have we heard a lot from Dreisbach?
I've heard a little bit more over recently, but still not a great deal.
I see some lawn signs around Williamsport and
Right.
the surrounding areas, but I haven't heard a whole lot from him.
But I would imagine if you're not centralized in that part of the state, you're not going to hear much about it if you're kind of around the city center or anywhere in that area. But I haven't heard a great deal. I've seen some things and some events that he has been at. But, you know, a lot of the conventional wisdom that I heard from my friends in Allegheny County, that whoever won the primary between Shade and McKay was going to clean this one up. What say you, Jim?
Yeah, I think McKay's going to walk away with this one easily, personally.
Yeah.
I don't see a race here.
What's your number?
90-10.
There you go.
I'm 99-1.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think McKay walks away with this. I think he has the resume. I think, you know, to win a race, you got to run a race, and I don't see the race being run on the other side. So,
Yeah. I'm not going to be outdone by you, Terrence. Just because your Giants are 6-2, and the Redskins, my mama called them Redskins. I'm gonna call them Redskins. Are 4-4. I'm not going for that. I'm going 100% McKay.
And can I just say this about Mike McKay? The attacks that we saw from his primary competitor,
Yeah, Jake Shade.
they were in all cases, I believe, attacks that were taken completely out of context. And I find that very problematic. And I know that Mr. Dreisbach is not necessarily repeating those attacks, but for those that remember of them, that remember those, and
That rubbed you the wrong way.
it rubbed me the wrong way that somebody was attacking Mike McKay for something that really, it was just dead wrong.
Yeah. Mr. Moore. Oh, that's right. You went 99-1
I'm
on
all
that
in.
particular race. All right. Next up, we have the state Senate race that is closer to us. We have the incumbent, Senator Paul Quarterman, versus Sean Perry.
Yep.
You know, the thing that I will say is that I appreciate from Mr. Perry that he did offer voters a choice, no matter how long shot that was. And I will give him credit. He has picked up his campaign over the past months.
He has.
He has been out there. He's been campaigning. He's been making his message. I know there was a video that came out a week ago. And just for us as a voter base, it's always good to have a choice, because I know that the last time that Senator Serafini ran, he ran unopposed. So I just appreciate the effort and the time that it takes for a man to take the mantle and spend the time to give voters a choice. So I do respect that out of him. I don't see much of an opportunity for him to win this race, but I would hope that this is not his last race. I think that running for something, within the city, whether he runs for mayor or city council, may be a great fit for him, because that's where he built the majority of his energy. So I see some opportunity there for him in 2 years. You don't have to wait that long.
No, you don't. And I would concur. I think this is, from my perspective, this is 100% Mr. Quarterman, 0% Mr. Perry. I do appreciate him getting into the race. The problem that he has that really is insurmountable in my view is the fact that, in addition to being a reasonable, thoughtful representative in state government, he gets stuff done. His list of accomplishments are significant. The list of things that this community needed, not wanted, needed, that he's been able to shepherd across the finish line, I don't see that there's a choice there.
I agree with both of you. With Sean Perry, again, I respect him getting out, learning the community, being active, being engaged, and I also hate looking down my ballot of people unopposed. That's, even though it's permitted, it just doesn't feel democratic to me all the time. Like I want to have options, and I'm assuming other people want as well, as you kind of stated. And Perry has been active. He's been engaged. He's been in the community. Unfortunately, he ran against a candidate who was doing the same and who has been doing the same for some time, and who walked in, victorious off a monumental legislative session over the last couple of years as well. So and which I didn't see, and which I appreciate as well, that the mudslinging in this race didn't exist.
No, it didn't.
I didn't see the ads. I didn't see the mudslinging, and I think there was a level of respect for both candidates as they pursued the democratic process and their civic duties. And I agree with you as well. I think Sean has a background in law enforcement. He's had a better understanding of the community. I think this was a great learning opportunity, possibly, for him to kind of understand what the process looks like. And I think he's going to be a tough candidate if he does decide to run in another race in another 2 or another 4 years as well. So I will give that to him. But I'm 90-10 Quarterman.
Right. You know, the thing I look at is, you know, the biggest thing that Senator Quarterman was able to deliver last year was the stadium and all the complexities of that, and the fact that had been out there for many years, and Councilman Brucci had been really pushing for that and maneuvering and, you know, trying to work that as mayor, then trying to work it as council and move that, and just had no traction. And with Paul, you know, being on the side, you know, of getting it done, it not only took his work, but it took a humbleness, right? It took him to work with Senator Serafini and being able to listen to it, apply, and to work within those relationships that he didn't have, and build those relationships and grow. And whether you agree with the stadium or not, whether you agree with the placement of the stadium or not, a $70+ million infusion of capital into our community that will hit our community around 2024, you know, when things are complete and that's ready to go, at a time where we're probably going to be coming out of recession, is going to be big for the city of Hagerstown.
Yep. And let me just add on that, and you said a good word there, humble. And that is the kind of leader that I have found Mr. Quarterman to be. When he talks to people, and I'm sure he talks to many people with whom he doesn't agree, but he has genuine interest in what they're having to say, and he listens, and he was willing to consider both sides of an argument. And I think that's an important piece. I think it's a piece that's missing in national politics. I think at some level it's missing in state politics. And that he brings that, I think, number one, makes him more successful in Annapolis on Washington County's behalf. And number two, I think it makes him a better politician for his constituents, in terms of someone being able to be confident that their issues are heard. He returns phone calls.
Yep, I agree, and I think he also had to overcome some things, right? He was the appointed, right? So he moved through his, you know, his seats and his progression in a point of being appointed, and then being a point of having to win a race. So that also kind of loomed over him. He was all about just the business community, right? And I think there was a maturation of wealth from him kind of stepping outside of being the representative of the business community, and then the representative of the community as a whole, you know, and really getting involved and being able to have conversations with community leaders and advocate for them just as much as he advocated for the business community, and bridging that, you know, that divide as well, even across some party lines. That really look favorable to the work that he's done. So I think the deck was kind of stacked in this race, but I'm looking forward to the work that happens thereafter. Again, I don't agree with everything that Quarterman has really advocated for in some ways, but I do recognize and appreciate the work he has done to securing some of the economy, and what that's going to look like in the next couple of years.
Right. All right. Did you put a number on it, T?
Yes.
What did you put?
I gave it 90-10, I believe. I believe that was it.
Is that where you are, Jim?
Yep.
Now I'm on videotape. If I'm off, but again, I think no matter what, I think it's a commanding win.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll be safe. I'll stay with 90-10 with you guys. Sorry about that. Last race we'll cover, the hottest race in all of Washington County. The one that has the most energy, the most yapping and talking on social media. That will be District 2B, the city race between Delegate Brenda Cham against Brooke Grossman. Obviously, you have all of City Council and the mayor, other than Brucci, endorsing Brooke Grossman. Delegate Cham was appointed. She had roughly about 2 years in the seat, large learning curve. But she's been able to deliver some things for community. And from a personal standpoint, I don't think you're going to find anyone that's going to say anything derogatory about who she is as a person.
No.
You may not agree with some of her politics, but as a person, she's going to shoot you straight. And even if you are disrespectful to her, she'll give grace. So I give her credit for that. You know, the one thing in regards to this race, it's been a little ugly online, right?
Agreed.
Downstate, you have a little bit of money coming in regards to Facebook ads and people going back and forth at each other in regards to that. But the thing that I say is this: you're going to find the most rabid fans of either candidate or either party on social media, but those won't be the voters that will decide that race. That race is going to come down to people that are not going to engage in the social media foolishness, that really look at the body of work of what these two individual ladies do and their character, their levels of education, their relationships, and what they think they can truly accomplish for this community. I think some of the things that came out of this campaign are pie in the sky. You know, I've seen some things in regards to crime fighters and all this other stuff. And show me another delegate that's a crime fighter. And how do you execute on that? So it's a little bit of foolishness that is coming out of this. But no matter who wins this race, getting footing in Annapolis from the delegate seat is really, really tough.
It is.
It is.
It's really, really tough. Brenda found that out in her 2 years. You know, she may have a little bit of an advantage because she knows the bumps that she went through. I think if Brooks wins, that a lot of the things that she's saying right now aren't going to look the same when she gets to Annapolis. She's going to get a rude awakening.
The view is always very good from the cheap seats.
It's always good from the cheap seats in regards to saying that you're going to save the world and babies and all of this
Right.
other stuff. Goodwill hasn't even done that, so I'm just not buying that rhetoric.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for anybody in this seat, especially someone completely brand new with no political background and no political capital downstate as well right now.
Yeah.
There's a huge turnover happening in Annapolis. So building relationships is the name of the game. And coming in, you need somebody that's going to usher you in, take you under the wing, help you build those relationships, lend their credibility so you can build those relationships and get things done. You have to immediately get in and start writing legislation. If you don't have experience doing that, what does that look like? You know, so I just think that it's going to be difficult with a Grossman win for her to be effective in that position as quickly as she's promising to the community. I think Brenda has some momentum with having 2 years in that role and really understanding some of the pitfalls and mistakes that she made over her 2 years and how to come into this legislative session and deliver on some of the things she wants to deliver on. As far as the race here locally, I see this one as a party line race as well, right? I really believe—
So it's turnout.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be about turnout. And I believe, again, I think for Brooke to win, there has to be a push for turnout. And not saying that turnout is guaranteed to be in their favor, because I think we're also missing that unaffiliated independent vote that will finally get to be heard, that didn't get the opportunity back in the primaries. So this race is hard to call. I am disappointed on both sides with the ads that I've seen in both my mailbox and social media online and the mud throwing. That's not politics, all right? That is just unnecessary. The claims without fact, the images, that doesn't sway my vote.
Right.
If anything, for you to sign off on some of those things, it gives me pause.
And to be clear on that, to be fair, it was on both sides.
Yes,
right?
no, absolutely.
The Republicans downstate, they were posting some things and showing Brooke looking crazy and, saying some things in regards to her and, props in her hand and things like that. It didn't elevate the conversation. For me, it took the conversation away from what you are able to accomplish from the delegate seat. Like it became a conversation that wasn't realistic. Like what I've seen on social media recently was that Brooke is a crime fighter and she received this award from HPD, but it wasn't an endorsement from HPD. It's like, well, why are you alluding to an award that you won if you're not trying to make it look like it's an endorsement and those type of things? So it was a lot of gamesmanship in regards to that, but I just don't think that the value of the conversation was elevated enough to really talk about what you could do for community. And then the other thing is, I know that there was some, talk and dust up in regards to whether they would have a debate or forum and things like that. And there was some that felt that Brenda didn't want to or whatever. And then, Brooke goes on a podcast and, with a partisan and, people are championing her for that. So it was a lot of lowbrow stuff that I don't think that serves the community well. And I think that people that are rabid fans of either one may be very well disappointed when you start to see up close like what you actually can deliver from that seat.
I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
It's probably true that the city side of Maryland sees Southern Maryland and Western Maryland as the country bumpkins, or whatever you want to term that, and old school potentially. How important is it from a ability to perform for us to have a candidate of color as a representative of our district?
I don't think it's.
Does it help us? Does it get us anything?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to say no is when Brenda was in the seat, and I think it's important, Brenda needs to win an election because she hasn't won an election yet.
And I'm not suggesting that we should send somebody down there just because she's a candidate of color.
I think the Republican Central Committee did Brenda a disservice when she was appointed, and then the young lady that was one of the campaign folks for Tierra Burnett went after her and made some racial statements. And Jerry DeWolf and the Republican Central Committee launched into this tirade to make Brenda the victim when they didn't need to be. Because that wasn't the first time that Brenda in her life from rural North Carolina has seen a racial attack. And she was well enough equipped to defend herself and or show grace. Mm-hmm. And the Republican Central Committee cheapened the argument at the same time of posting pictures of now President Biden in cornrows and the vice president dressed up, as a streetwalker and those type of things. I just think it was totally distasteful, and you didn't do Brenda any favors with that because she didn't need your help in the manner that you gave it.
And once the work gets started, I don't care what your gender is or what your race is or what your religion is. It's about doing the work. And so I believe a lot of that falls into the antics that happen around campaigning and elections because we've allowed it to be a popularity contest of who's endorsing you and what does that mean? And that's when it goes back to the dollar spent from downstate, even in these races. Like, it would have been better spent putting together opportunities for individuals to create town halls virtually or in person to really get out your message and speak to the people, hear about what they want and answer those questions. And again, we know that what you want to do and what you can do are completely different things, but it's okay to be humble in that moment and say what you're going to advocate for, and you're going to be met with challenges. Have that conversation with people. Treat us like intellectuals. Stop treating us like children on social media that you're going to waver or get me to make decisions that's going to impact my home, my family, my children. I don't have children, but children in this community because you throw up some ad or you manipulate with who you're endorsed by. We got to stop allowing politicians to campaign that way. And it's only going to continue as long as people continue to eat it up. More of us are far more intelligent to understand that doesn't sway our votes. And we need to put our foot down because if we don't draw the line, they won't.
No one will.
So I need to say this, and this is my view of the world relative to elections. And you made an impassioned speech about the reasons people go to the voting booth and their passion for that. In my mind, that's one end of the continuum. Mm-hmm. The other end of the continuum is, what name do I recognize?
Right.
Okay, and I don't know where the bell curve is on that, whether it's at this end or at that end, but it worries it worries me because hopefully they've seen Brenda Chames' name, or hopefully they've seen Brooke Grossman's name, depending on who people want to win. But that's the other unknown in the election
I think
process.
they've both been seen right because Brenda, obviously when she was appointed, there was buzz. The only thing in regards to her appointment that I grabbed from it is it was historical, right? But you celebrate that for the fact that it opens up that possibility for children that look like mine, right? But after you take that and you put that aside, then it's about doing the work. Yes, people are going to know Brenda's name from that and the dust up and the attention that came with that. People are also going to know Brooke Grossman's name mainly because the city put her on display this entire year leading up into this election, right? We said before she came out with their endorsement that she was basically being endorsed by the city. And, I can't tell you how many city hall meetings she's been at this year where she was being highlighted for her work. So everyone knows the players. It's the hottest race.
It is the hottest race.
And I believe it
and
is
frankly,
the
I
only
think it's the
one-
most worrisome. Have we given numbers yet?
We haven't given numbers yet. We didn't tease this thing to death.
Let's do the numbers. Get out that calculator.
My calculator's
Reggie
out. I'm going to let
Cronkite.
you go. I just got to hit the equal sign. What you got?
What do you say?
In this race, this is a slim margin right now, and more going by the numbers and voters that are registered and the turnout. I'm going 55-45, Brenda Cham, Delegate Cham.
I want to be last this time. Can I do that?
Darn it, Jim.
Come on, Cronkite.
The thing that I look at is the latest dust up we've had within city limits in regards to the logo. And one of the things in regards to that dust up that we've seen is people have this sense that the city is going woke. Now, first thing I want to say about woke. The word woke does not mean what it meant 20, 30 years ago when I was growing up and it was used as part of slang. It's been transformed, diluted since it's become mainstream. But I'm going with the version of woke that you folks talk about and that was talked about in Lou Scally's posts and things like that. I think that if there is a fear that Brooke is definitely aligned with the city and their interest, that this wokeism that people are worried about is not the direction that a conservative community may go in, and it may hurt her a little bit. But with that being said, and it's tough to read because a lot of the online talking and energy is on her side, right? But it's the same group of probably about 20 to 30 people. So it's kind of hard to decipher out, is that true energy or is that just rabid fans? You guys are going to hate me for this, but I got to go 50-50. But I will say this is the only race other than Jason Malott and those type races. This is the only race that Democrats have a chance to win. And that's why all the energy is there.
You're still sitting on the fence.
I am sitting on the fence. I will get off the fence before we close out on the Trone race, but I'm staying on the fence there, and you're not moving me, Jim.
Yeah, so number one, I don't think people are going to make the hop from the city being woke to Brooke Grossman.
Is the city woke though? Is that breaking news?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know whether they're woke or not. I know they, in my personal opinion, they have a stinky new logo, and they rolled it out horribly. But that's another story.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had the best intentions. I'm not suggesting they didn't. It's not something, and I've not seen, other than the sycophants, I've not seen one. I've not talked to one person. I was in a room. I was at dinner last night with 20 people, and it was the subject matter for 10 minutes, and there was not one person in that room, artists, business leaders, educators, that had anything good to say about it. But that's not what we're talking about right now. That's not the meeting we're having. I think that I'm sure Ms. Grossman is a fine person. I see her as a political opportunist. She looks for issues to glob onto, and she globs onto them and she takes them to the mat. That's not my style of politics. That is one of the things I respect about people like John Barr. One of the things that I respect about Mr. Quarterman is that their political talk is no different than their regular talk. They're genuine, they're honest, and I'm not saying she's not honest. I shouldn't have said that, but there's a level of political mode there that I just don't appreciate. So that said, I've not seen that same thing out of Delegate Cham. I think there are others like me that are going to appreciate that, but I do think this is the tightest race in Washington County. I'm saying 60-40 Cham.
Wow. Wow. Well, there we go. Terrence?
Well, you know, we do have a baseline, right? Both were in the city council race
Yes.
2 years ago. And though Brenda pulled out of the race because she was appointed, well, she wasn't pulled out.
Did she have more votes?
I can't remember the
'cause
exact count on the
Brooke
votes.
didn't show well in
Right.
the city council race.
And I think she did have more votes because I think even though Delegate Cham was already appointed to the delegate seat, she still had a chance of winning that city council seat as well.
Because she had over 7,000 votes.
Yeah, and then now we're seeing a bump up to a new position at a higher level. And again, I admire anybody who runs for a political seat. And we have the ability to sit back and criticize them at a rate because they are there to represent us, right? And so I hate when people lash out at constituents who are voters who have a problem or who holds elected officials accountable, right? Because they are there elected by us to represent us. No matter what party they're affiliated with, they are supposed to be the representative of the people in the body in our best interest. So if I have a problem with an elected official or have a problem with an elected body that does anything, I have every right to speak up and speak out and not be attacked and criticized as a tax-paying constituent, right? So I just believe that hopefully that what comes out of this race and what comes out of the tie to maybe what you're saying with the city, with that all that gets cast aside. And that's why I can't wait for this election to be over, because the real work has to start sooner or later.
Yeah.
And the real work is going to be even more important on the heels of a recession and all the change that is slated to happen in this community. Because if it's not executed with collaboration and we're not working together and we continue to be divisive just to maintain popularity, it's all going to fall flat. And us as constituents are going to suffer.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've wrapped the bow on that one. Gentlemen, our viewers are waiting in regards to how I feel about Trone versus Perry. Everyone is waiting.
Do you think they're waiting, Terrence?
Not at least.
Me neither. But go ahead, Reggie.
51-49, Trone.
Okay.
All right.
51-49, Trone.
All right.
And we are saying this is our chances of winning, not how we vote, right?
No, definitely not how we
So I just
vote.
want to clarify, this is not how we vote, but just based on the political environment, what we see out there in the environment, the campaigns that are being run, this is our chances of winning.
Absolutely, because I wrote in for every.
Yourself.
You're supposed to put the best candidate down.
Oh, goodness.
So, there we go.
Take us out
All right.
to the next segment. We're going to talk about ballot initiatives, right?
All right, we get into the questions. Okay.
Are we going to get to the question tonight? Yeah, we're not going to have time for that tonight, Jim. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Well, then just take us out.
I'm going to have to take you guys out.
Well, let's just say, please pay attention to the questions that are on the ballot. There are 5 important questions on the ballot right now. There's opportunity to do your research before you send in your ballots and before you show up on election day. The questions are just important as the candidates, if not more. So do your due diligence.
Good point. Well, gentlemen, when we come back, we will have a sense of how things go. I don't think the next time that we're back, we're going to have a sense of 2B. We still may have some time to wait to kind of see how that one shake it up. But most of these races should be done by the time we come back. So That is all the time that we have for tonight. We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us your comments to feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That is feedback@theflipsidetv.com. But most importantly, join us next week for another episode of